Hello. It's the first time I've done a live stream, so we'll see how we go. Hopefully not too bad. I've decided to do a live go at starting on Pertram. It's hard. There's very little ice to find, making it really challenging to try and get to space, and that's kind of the point. Um, the main reason for starting this in the first place is on one of the other keen servers. I've noticed that a lot of people buy the game, they've had it for a few days, play around in creative mode, which is great. Then they jump on the server, try to play in survival, and just get absolutely annihilated. Or they struggle with trying to get the base up and started. It is pretty difficult, but I mean, that's what makes the game great. So what I'm going to try and do is, show you how to get a starter base up in the hardest situation I can think of off the top of my head. And let's just jump in and see how we go. And down we go. Quite hard. That was fun. And looks like, yep, I'm in a crater. And my drop pod's knackered and I've got no survival kit. So I am not doing anything at the moment. So we backspace out. We really need that survival kit. That was unfortunate. I'm not joining a faction. And Pertram. Respawn. What I think might have happened there is the parachutes didn't open. Well, they didn't open that time, but it wasn't necessary, and we have landed in one piece. Oh, and by the looks of things, nope. Okay, now one of the other problems with this particular scenario, and I've already hurt myself, is the lack of ice means that we are not going to be able to rely on the jetpack. I've already used up a fair bit to start with there. So that is going to make it extremely difficult. I'm going to have to pretty much, whatever I build, I'm going to have to build it being able to walk up onto it. So yeah, Struggle Town. Now, if we have a look at the respawn pod as it is, we have the survival kit at the back here. This is the thing that gets you started. You hover over the little keypad here and press F, and that lets you, recharges your health and so on and so forth. And at the back, if we press F there on the conveyor pod, we can open up the inventory. We've got the inventory screen just here. And what we've got in here is a couple of bottles. We've got an oxygen bottle and a hydrogen bottle and some ice, which unfortunately is not going to last us too long if we use it. We also have a pistol. In the seat, we have a pistol, a magazine, or 4 of them, as well as a data pad. Now, the data pad's pretty handy because it'll show us where a NPC base is, which What you can do with the NPC base is trade materials, purchase materials, and so on and so forth. They also have some missions there which can be fun to do. There's quite a wide variety of missions, but also selling materials can get you space credits, so that way you can like purchase zone chips later on if you wanted to set up a safe zone, like a shielded base sort of thing. But that's a long way from where we are now. Now we have to sit in the seat to get to the seats inventory, so we'll just take everything out of that. And if we have a look in the inventory, we right click on the data pad and we get some information here. Feel free to read. And we have a GPS for a station, so we'll go create GPS marker. Now if we go into the GPSs, we've got a few things that have popped up here which we don't really need. We don't need that, we don't need that, we don't need that, but we do want that, so we'll keep that one for now. Now we don't need to hang on to the data pad anymore, so we'll just put it back. Now I don't think anybody else is running on the server at the moment, so we probably don't need to yep, I'm the only one. So we don't really need to carry the gun around with us. When there are other people on there, some of the servers, I don't know about this particular one, but some can be prone to being raided, so you might want to be careful. Like that's something that I'm going to also be working on in this, is trying to get the base up and going and get it mobile as soon as possible. Otherwise we run a very good chance of somebody coming along whilst we're not on the server and annihilating our base. It's very easy to spot from a fair way away. You can make it more inconspicuous, but the goal is to try to make something that moves as quickly as we can and get it somewhere where there's some ice. We can mine that out and away we go. Now we could try flying this for a while, but I don't think it's gonna have much fun. And the other problem with the respawn pod, or the initial respawn pod, is that when we log out, this is gonna go away. So there's a few things that we have to do to make sure that we keep our spawn location fine, unless of course it gets interfered with. So we'll run through those as well, and we'll just get a small starter base like up and going and see how we go with it. Long intro, but there's a lot to the game. Now we'll just have a quick look around. If we pull out the drill's got an ore detector on it, so we can see if there's anything notable or worth hanging around for, which doesn't look like there is going to be anything within a short distance, but that's okay. We can do a lot with very little. Yeah, it's going to be a trek to try and find anything. So what we want to do is pick a spot where, well, first off we need to dig some stone. You're going to spend a lot of time digging stone. Now the surface layers are not ideal for it, but you just do what you can. Now you hold F whilst drilling and you automatically pick up the stone. We want to try and, well, there's not really a lot you can do to make the hole not visible from a long way away. Like, you just want to try and leave a smallish footprint. Like, would be a suggestion. And then we hold Alt and click the middle mouse button. It'll dump everything that we have in our inventory that can be dumped, that's not ammunition or other things like that. straight into the survival kit. And the other thing we should do with the survival kit is we need to start making gravel. That's how, like, the survival kit converts the stone into other things like iron, silicon and nickel, so that way we can manufacture the other things like the components that we need to get the rest of the base started. And we can also go along and unlock our progression tree. Now, a lot of this stuff I'm probably gonna glaze over because it is kind of difficult to give instructions without someone asking questions, but try my best. Spend a lot of time digging. The other thing to keep in mind is that I can't just dig straight down because I can't rely on the jetpack to get me out of the hole I create, and I forgot to put stuff on production, so just chuck a bunch on there. Now, with selecting just about anything, if you want to move things across your inventory, or like if you want to move a lot of them or what have you, or you want to put on different amounts, right? You click once for one, you click control click, left click, sorry, for 10, shift left click, you get 100, control shift left click, you get 1,000. So we'll just chuck a bunch on there. The gravel is not going to be useful for us for quite some time. Pretty much not until we get to space. One of the other things that's difficult about starting on a planet is we cannot get any uranium off planets. We have to go to an asteroid to get it. So we need to get to space without that. So chuck that in there. And not all of it would go, but that's because I got distracted with something else when we were supposed to be putting gravel on the production. Now, like I said, lots of drilling. It's very grindy at the start, but it picks up. Hopefully it doesn't get too exciting with people trying to interfere with our base. The other thing that we're definitely going to need, which we might use the hydrogen bottle for, like just for an extra bit of jetpack time. This thing here, like if we put that on our inventory, it will refill our jetpack, right? We might need to fly up and have a look and see if we can spot some ore deposits like from an altitude. And we've got an antenna over there. That's probably an NPC, and that's probably not going to cause us any grief. Hopefully. But we'll see. That's something else that might be worth doing. We'll turn off any beacons or antennas or anything that we may have to give away our position, because we don't want to be found at this stage. So we'll go into the control panel, turn the antenna off. We just have to be mindful of where we are, and we'll also make sure the beacon is off here as well. That way we're not broadcasting any signals that can be found. People will have to actually see us to like do anything to us. They won't be able to see us from any distance. Well, maybe. Okay. Cobalt is a very difficult thing to acquire earlier on. If we can find a deposit of cobalt, then we're going to be on easy street per se. And that's because you need the cobalt to make containers, large grid containers, and that's something else as well. We've got the small grids and the large grids. We're going to be focusing on building with large grids. Like, we can't keep this thing, it will get deleted anyway, but there are parts on it that we want to use. Now we can get some metal grids out of this. If you have a look on the right there, it's got all the components of it. You've got one metal grid per, so we will need all 4 of those to make one small large grid container, which is what we're going to be putting on our starter base. But first off, we'll put some steel plate onto production. As you can see, it's made from the stone that we've put in so far. It's made gravel, iron, nickel and silicon. So if we queue up some steel plate as well, we're going to need a wind turbine. So we'll queue up some, actually, we can't use the blueprints yet, unfortunately. We have to go for the next assembler. But anyway, we do need parts for power, not that many parts for power. We'll need some of those, Solar cells do work okay. If there's an atmosphere, wind turbines work a lot better. And that's the method that I think I'm going to go for. So, oh, we're glitching out a little bit. So we'll start laying some blocks down. Now we are also going to want to create a drill on the base that we're going to be working out of, to plunge into the stone here and just make our life a little bit easier and get something else to do the work for us. But let's start placing some blocks. We need to get some plate first, so grab some of that and chuck that back in there. And it's just going to be going backwards and forwards, chucking stone in there, so that way we can get all the stuff we need to manufacture everything that we want. Now, make it so that I can walk up onto this base, because, as I said, there are no jetpacks. Well, there won't be. Not until we can find a good supply of hydrogen. So if we put it up like this and we have it elevated away from the voxels, what that allows us to do is we can just build our base straight from scratch as something that we can detach and turn into a ship or a vehicle. And what I'm going to go for here is we're going to go for a rover. So that way we can drive over to a location where we can find a lot of ice. Then we can mine a lot of ice and just really go to town on it that way. Now, we'll start placing the basic blocks that we need to get a starter base up and going. We'll just give myself a little bit of room here so I can walk around, which I'll probably fall off many times and probably kill myself in the process, but we'll see how we go. Now, the basic assembler is one of the first few things that we'll need. It's only got one port on it. The yellow square is a conveyor port. Now, that's important because it allows the materials to pass from one block to another. And we need the refined materials to go into the assembler and the parts to be able to come out. Now, the next thing that we want to place down is our refinery. So we select the refinery, that's number 6 on the first toolbar. And you can see this one's got conveyor ports on both sides. They are also access ports for putting stuff in and out of. With the ports that are grayed out in the middle like that, you can access them. The ports that you can't do that with are the ones that are fully yellow. Yeah, so we leave the gap in the middle there, so that way what we can do is, if we hold control, we can change to another toolbar, and we can, if we press G, we can add the containers in. So we select the block, the container, I usually put it there because I use a lot of them, and up comes a small large grid container. We'll chuck one of those there, but we need interior plates, so we'll go down and we'll grab some of those. And we're just laying out the basic idea of what we're trying to do with the base. Whoops, put it in the wrong spot. That was a champion effort. Try again. Okay, now the other thing that we're going to need to get a good start going is we're going to need power. Now, whilst we have the jetpack, well, there's two ways we can go about it. We can make a ramp, or we can quickly try and place the wind turbine with the jetpack. We need to get that up off the ground. If we don't, then it's not going to be as effective, and we'll need more of them, which is going to take up a lot of resources. I think I might go for trying to build a ramp, because why not? I did want to make it harder for myself, so we'll see how we go with that. So we'll add in a little bit wider a platform here, so that way we can walk around it. Now, one of the problems with not being able to fly is the limited reach. It may have to get elaborate with trying to make something high enough to make the jetpack, or to make the wind turbines useful, but I'm just going to get out of the way at the moment. And now we select the wind turbine, see if we can place it. Unfortunately, we are too close, so I'm going to jetpack it. There we go. Now we need to make all the parts we need for it. Now, something else to be mindful of is that we have a very limited oxygen supply. That's problematic for us, because not only do we have to use ice to make hydrogen, we have to use the ice to make our oxygen. What we're going to do is use an air tank, an air vent on a O2 tank, and we're going to use the air tank. Like, there is limited air here, which we can collect from the atmosphere and store it in an oxygen tank. So we have to set up something like that pretty quickly as well. And then the other things that we will want to do is start, like once we've got all that stuff together, is start look at moving our survival kit onto our main grid. So we'll grind it down and move it over. So that way all our progress doesn't get removed when we log off the server. Something else I should have done at the start is set a GPS for this particular location. So to do that, go into the K menu, GPS, new from current position, and call it something. Probably unimaginative. So that way, if we do lose it, we don't have to rely on a beacon or a battery or anything like that failing on us. Or if we get logged out and our respawn pod gets deleted, then we'll be able to find ourselves or find our progress so far. It may take us a little while to get back here, but we will be able to find it. Okay, so let's get back to digging holes. Fun. Now what I do, like I crouch and I hold F while I'm doing this. That way everything that comes out, well not everything, but a lot of stuff that comes out makes it a lot easier to pick up. As well as crouching down, you can actually drill at the ground. It took me a little while to figure that out at first. Like I thought I was doing something wrong. Well, I was doing something wrong. Whoops. Habit there, turn the jetpack on. I couldn't drill the ground and I thought something was glitching out, and turns out no, I was just being incompetent. Which I'm quite good at being. Been doing a lot of talking. We're about half an hour in now and we have not achieved much. But we will get there. And there goes the jetpack again. That is a habit I'm going to have to really get out of if this is going to work. Okay, now we also have a function called the build planner. If we go up to something with our weld tool and we right click, it says components added to build planner. Now if we right click on the basic assembler, it'll add those as well, and we also want the things for the wind turbine. We won't be able to make the things that we need for the container yet, so I'm not going to bother with that yet. We're just going to leave that as a hollow grid. I'll show you why once we've got the other two parts built. So if we hold down shift and we click the middle mouse button, it will put all the components that we need for those parts onto production. Now if we go into production tab, says that all of these things are going to be produced. Now, even though that's the first thing there, if it can't make that, then it will make the next thing along the list. So everything there is queued up, so we just need to dig a lot more stuff out of the ground. If we have a look in the middle there, it tells us the parts that, or the materials that we need for each thing. So for iron, or for the steel plate, we need, for 17 of those, we need 119 ingots of iron, and so on and so forth through those things. So lots of digging to come. But that's all set up now, so now we just dig, and then dig, and then dig, and then dig. And then once we think we're done digging, we'll dig some more. Because, yeah. Now, as much as this part of the game is frustrating, it's a grind, not necessarily frustrating. It's just something that you accept. Once you get past it, not so bad. I keep hitting the jetpack. I'm meaning to press C instead of X. Now, something else that is a pretty big challenge I found on Pertram when I've tried this before is there are some pretty wicked storms on this planet, and the lightning chases you. So something else that might be worth doing is getting myself underground so that way I don't get totally annihilated and die every 5 seconds. The other thing to consider is that we may need to put a roof over this, so that way the roof will get blown away, but important things like the survival kit won't. If the survival kit goes, we have to pretty much start again, and that will just make it a lot harder. And there's a good chance if that happens, I will start again, not stream it, because why the hell would you want to watch the grind twice? But yeah, we'll see how we go. We'll try to not die, and we'll try to not nuke out completely. But you never know. I mean, the whole point of the game, from my perspective, is that it is really hard, but it is quite entertaining. Like, I thoroughly enjoy this game. One of the main reasons for wanting to do this is if I can help people out and understand the game better, then the game will, like, the servers will be maintained longer, and hopefully Keen will support it longer. There is a great community with the modding as well as other players, and the usually if you're having a major problem, the in-game chat is a good place to go to get ask a question. Even if you think it's a stupid question, it's still worth asking. I still ask questions all the time. Some people may give you a little bit of grief for it, but at the same time, you know, you take the good with the bad. Like, the internet is full of all kinds of people. So, you know, if you can't handle playing online with some people that want to just try to ruin your day to make themselves feel better, then the internet is not a very good place to be. However, I have a lot of fun. It's a game. It's not meant to be taken seriously. Yeah, you might put a lot of work into building something cool, but ultimately, all it's cost you is time, and it's just giving you a new challenge to keep going at it. And that's what's great about it. Now, as you can see, the stone that I drilling is not super dense stone. If we drill a piece out and we have a look and see how much is actually in it, there's not very much stone in it. There's two reasons for that. We're drilling through the top surface layers at the moment. When we get down into the thicker stone, it will pick up a lot faster. The other thing as well is when we get better tools, when we can get better tools, bigger chunks will start coming off, and it'll make the drilling process a lot easier. But also, preferably by that time, hope to have a little bit better a setup, get a drilling rig set up on the base, so that way we can just plunge a big drill down and put it straight into the refinery and not have to do all this by hand business. So yeah, just being mindful not to create a hole that I can't get out of or a hole that I can't walk out of. That's going to be the crucial thing. Otherwise, well, at the moment it's no big deal. If I lose my tools, I'll respawn with the tools, but if I manage to get myself some better tools, I'm going to want to keep those better tools. Because it's just a pain to have to remake them all the time, or you may have limited resources. That was an odd shaped voxel there, looked like a block. Lots of digging. An interesting way I've described and had described to me this particular game is like Minecraft for adults. Like, even though on one of the other servers, I run a faction, there's a kid on there who's 12. He's doing okay. We give him a lot of help. Like showing him the ropes and stuff like that, because it can be a very complicated game. But at the same time, yeah, if you can wrap your head around how everything works, it can be very rewarding. There's a lot of principles in this game, especially if you were to get into scripting. If you wanted to get some programming skills or programming for mechatronics, the principles could be applied to that from some of the features in the game. I've seen some pretty crazy videos of contraptions people have come up with. I'm trying to pick up all the materials that I have on the build planner. I click the middle mouse button by itself and it attempts to withdraw everything I can and tells me all the stuff that I can't take out yet and carry, whether or not my inventory's full or whether or not the parts are not available. And then we just weld up what we can. If we have a look at the info box on the right there, it tells us what stuff or basically our progress on the build. Now, if we have a look at the bar in the middle down the bottom there, the light blue bar just above our toolbar, it shows us that we still have stuff in our inventory. So that means that there's still things that we can try and weld up. See, we have the interior plate there and the motors. We still don't have enough, but we're getting there. We also may have had stone in there, but that lets you know that you still have stuff in your inventory. And if you've got multiple items on the build planner, then yeah, you want to try and weld everything up, otherwise you just end up walking around in circles a lot. Build planner really does help a lot with preventing from walking around in circles. I learnt it from watching Splitsy do it, and it has been a godsend. Once I saw how to do that, yeah, I have not gone back since. So yeah, definitely highly recommend using the build planner when trying to do anything in the game, because there's nothing worse than trying to put something together, fly over, think you've got all the parts, and you haven't, and then you've got to fly all the way back, and then you've still forgotten something, so on and so forth, and it's just, why am I doing this? It's like, why do I put myself through this kind of pain? It's the little things like that, I think, make the game a lot easier to play once you figure them out and you know how to do it. It saves you a lot of time, saves you a lot of headache, and as you can see, I'm struggling to drill at the moment. That's because I'm not crouched. Now if I crouch and I walk around, now we start picking up stuff. And we're starting to go downhill, and we want to make sure that we go downhill in a particular way that we can walk out without too much difficulty. Sounds repetitive, but I don't know how many times I got myself stuck in a hole and had to dig my way out. And what I may have accidentally done is picked up parts, taken them off the build planner and put them back in the container. So we may not have everything on the build planner that we need. Now to bring up the build planner menu, or to see what we have on the build planner, we press the G key, and just down here we have build planner, and these are the items that we have queued up, and what it's got a little list there of what parts we still need for those particular things. So still a lot more digging to go. The other thing that we need to be mindful of is making sure that our survival kit doesn't run out of power. We don't want to have to rely too heavily on it to get it to do a lot of things. Otherwise the battery's going to go flat. Battery goes flat, survival kit doesn't work. If we cark it, then we've got to try and leg our way back to the base here, and that's going to suck. Now, I was all for a challenge. I don't want to make the challenge way harder than it has to be, such as repeating this whole process over again. I want to try and succeed at what I'm doing. I accept that there's going to be struggles. That's why I chose to do it this way. But I don't have to intentionally make it harder for myself. I can try not to. But we'll see how we go with that. I'm not well known for doing things the easy way. I just do it a way that I know works. And no doubt, if you are experienced at the game, and you're watching this, you're probably thinking, geez man, like, why don't you just do it some other way? And it's like, well, this is the way I know, and I'm open to hearing anybody else's ideas if anybody wanted to put them forward. Like, it's how I learned. No matter what, if anybody has another idea that may work, feel free, put it in. Someone may have value to it, or like see value in it, find it useful. I'm all for helping people out and progressing the game and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things that I'm not very good at doing, like I'm not brilliant at scripting anything, but there is a pretty good modding community and people who add content into the workshop. So yeah, if you wanted a particular script in a server that allowed it, or in creative mode or something of the sort, then that would be, yeah, you could find just about anything you want, as well as other blueprints and builds and stuff like that, which we'll get into later. We try and save ourselves from having to redesign everything from scratch. So that way, if something breaks, we can easily put up a template and we just weld everything up, make everything easier for ourselves. That's kind of the goal here, is to look at the ways I've found that are easier to make the game do what I want it to do. Still digging holes. The other thing I was thinking about doing was telling some stories from the engineer's point of view, Machina style. But we'll see how we go with that. I get distracted pretty easily. But that being said, there's a lot of boring stuff that goes on with the grind here. Just sitting here digging holes can get repetitive, monotonous, and boring. But stories are also, whether they're anecdotal, true stories, or just funny stories, they pass the time, help entertains me. I like telling stories about all the dumb, crazy stuff I've done, as well as all the dumb and crazy stuff that runs through my head. Now we just picked up some more materials there. Thought, oh, I'll have a look. Oh, we're flying again. That's not smart. Now, we've got enough stuff to finish off building the basic refinery, which is good, but also pointless because we don't have any power going to it at the moment. Now the other thing that we're going to need to start with is a battery. After we've done these two, we need to get a battery up and going, and the weather's gone a bit sketchy. That is not great. But now we've got the refinery up. Probably should have prioritized getting power on the station, because this will make stuff, like make things, pump it through a lot quicker, and we can store a lot more stuff in there. Or like a lot more ore or stone or whatever. Now there are 3 different, oh, that is a pretty big storm by the look of it. Or maybe it's just, that looks crazy. Anyway, back to the hole. Now, I don't have my lights on at the moment, but I will probably turn them on. It does use a bit of power in your suit, so that may mean that we need to come back to the survival pod a bit more frequently. I mean, we're using up a fair bit of power in the suit with the drill as well anyway, but the less backwards and forwards and niggly little problems you have. And see, there's the thing I was doing again. I didn't crouch. Thinking, why am I not digging? But once we get, like, the goal is, like, always from my perspective with this game in survival, to try and get to space. I much prefer doing builds with the jetpack in survival. Like, I do a lot of creative stuff in, well, not creative mode, but like I do a lot of build designs in creative mode. I find it a little bit more interesting that way, a little bit more challenging. And but what I don't like doing is being stuck on a planet with no jetpack. It makes it very hard to think freely when you're doing it. And it is much easier to do it in space, as far as like any kind of builds go, in my opinion, because you don't have to worry about gravity, so your jetpack does go empty all the time. If I'm doing, well, any kind of building in space, I won't be carrying a hydrogen bottle, whereas on the planets I will be carrying a hydrogen bottle, because you chew up the jetpack really fast just trying to fight against gravity. Even on the moon or Titan or one of the other lighter worlds, you still go through a fair bit of hydrogen just trying to stay up in the air, and yeah, it's not much fun. Especially like if you get yourself stuck, or like you're up working high and then out goes your jetpack and down you come, and then you gotta go find your body, grab your tools out of it and start again and try and get back to what you were doing. Now the other thing that we might want to do is, we'll just have a quick look. No, we're still the only ones on the server, so it's not too much of a problem, but we will want to kill those lights if anybody else does come on. So we'll just keep an eye out for that. So that way, if there is anybody else nearby and they do go looking for us, we're going to make ourselves a little bit less noticeable, because not all players are going to be hostile. Like, there are a lot of players who like to help out other people and stuff like that. But there are a lot of players who will just take a lot of pleasure and joy in ruining your base. I've seen many times some players will just go and burn the base down just for the fun of it, rather than actually grind it for materials or whatever. And that's just because some people want to see the world burn. Now you can see some of the stones that we're picking up, they're starting to get a little bit bigger. See, like, And that's because we're getting into the denser rock now. So it'll make it a little bit quicker for us, but not enormously quicker. What we want to do is go and look for some ore deposits like iron ore, cobalt, and so on with all the materials, and we'll find that we can refine a lot faster with those in comparison to just stone. Oop, I'm putting stone in here already and not thinking. We've still got a lot of stuff that we are waiting on. Now, the reason why it was a bit pointless putting anything in that refinery to start with, I did that out of habit. But it's pointless because we have no power, so we ain't doing squat. So, yeah. We'll see what's going on with this. This might be full of a particular thing. You've got to keep an eye on these numbers here. If you end up with too much of a particular material in the top part, which is the intake for the survival kit or the refinery, or the assembler for that matter. Sorry, it's the assemblers or the survival kit. These are the things it needs to make other things. If this fills up completely with one particular thing, it may prevent other things from being made, so that can be problematic. I've seen people have problems with that quite a bit. What we're making a lot of is gravel, the only thing we're really going to want that for later is for the reactor components for a nuclear reactor, and like I said before, we are not going to need that for quite some time. So anyway, we'll see if we can grab any more out. I don't think we got anything. Oh, we got a couple of things. So we'll just go and chuck down, see what we can chuck on. We still need the construction components and interior plates there. Over here we need construction components, computers, and steel plates. So the other thing that we can do to try and speed things along, because we need those construction components, we can go back to production and we can change the priority of how we want everything to be done. Now, the reason why it's got multiple things up here like this is because there was multiple components or multiple different things that we added to the build planner at the same time. We can actually just double those up like that by clicking them over. So, yeah, still banging out the stone, but we want that after we want the stone. So that way the stone gets made first as the first priority, then the next thing down the line, or whatever it can make. At least that's the theory, so we'll see how we go with it. Fun and games. Squat. It's leg day. Still more digging. And once you think you're done digging, you keep digging because you're gonna need to keep digging. This part of the game is more like the shovel simulator rather than the space engineer simulator. It's like a lot less painful though, I will have to say. We're nearly there, we nearly got power, so we're going to start really cranking stuff out. Now, the thing that we're going to have to do until we get the cargo container done is we're going to have to manually move the ingots from over here into the assembler, which, do we have any parts for that? Nope. we need the same things. And on with the jetpack again, wasting precious fuel. Whilst we're over here, charge up our suit, get some more air. Now the reason why these two parts are important to get up and going as quickly as you can is because there is a limited number of different things that the survival kit can produce. It can only make these components here. We need other components to make other things. Like we also need the basic assembler to make the parts for the container, so that's why it's pretty low on the priority. Okay, now if you have a look at the progress bar there, it's got a functional line and a hack line. The functional line means that it is not completely assembled, but it's assembled enough to actually make it work. I think there's a performance cost. I'm not 100% sure of that, but now we can see we have a green light on the top of the refinery, and the refinery will start working away and turning stone into ingots and gravel, which is good news. That means that we are making progress. We are getting there. Now, this would have been a lot quicker if I had just focused and done it. I'm taking my time talking you through it, hopefully in a way that helps you out. I have helped out quite a few people over the last month or so on the other Keen server who have just bought the game and struggled with it so hard they've just wanted to go, nah, I want my money back. And I put everything into that. I get into habits pretty quick, which is not ideal. Now if we deposit everything in there, or if you can hear it winding up barely. Actually, I think I might not turn that up actually, because the drill noise can be very irritating. The music, if you're wondering, is just YouTube Commons stuff made available for streaming. So I don't know all the authors' names off the top of my head, but I will put a list up one day of all the songs that I'm using off of the Commons if you're interested. Let me know if you're watching and you do want to know more about the music. It's just whatever was free on YouTube. Because the basic... I just did it again. I dropped the stone into the survival kit. But the more things that we have working on it at the same time, then the better off we're going to be, because we can make more stuff quicker. Something else that we could have done is we could have flown the survival pod for a limited amount of time with the thrusters that are on here, and we could have put ourselves in a better spot, but I thought, no, we'll just stick with it here and we'll just get started and see what happens. Now, we'll see if we got any. We still need more interior plates. I don't know what we needed them for. Do we need? No, we don't need them for this. But we have this functional now, which is good news. That means that if we have a look, if we go into this menu here and we have a look at the production, we've got more items that we can build. Steel tubes, large steel tubes, or small steel tubes, large steel tubes, metal grids, which we need cobalt for. As you can see in the middle there, it tells you what we need for those particular components. We also need silver for the medical components. That's why we have to salvage our survival kit, because that's needed for that. We've got power cells, so we can make a battery now. And I think I'm not sure of the bulletproof glass, but in any case, yeah, we have detected components as well. So yeah, we've got a lot more things that we can now make, but what we have to do is we have to go over to the assembler. We want to pull out the ingots that we made from here, and this is until we get the cargo container built, and then we deposit the ingots in there using Alt middle mouse button. Now what we can do as well, like we haven't quite finished building that, but it's functional at the moment. What we can do is we put the stuff that we need for the cargo container into the build planner. If we have a look, we need small steel tubes, metal grids. They're the two main things that we needed that we couldn't get from the survival kit. So that's a bit of a tricky thing there. So yeah, we add it to the production on there. We're not going to be able to make the metal grids, but we will salvage those from the thrusters that we have here. So because we have one thruster in each one, we got 4 thrusters. We will be able to get one cargo container out of that, and that's all we're going to need for the short term. Once we've got the base up and going and we've got all of that stuff working for us, we'll start looking at the other things that we're going to need to do, like such as hunting down some cobalt ore, which we can't use the survival kit to process ores. We can only process stone in that. The basic refinery can process iron ore, silicon, cobalt, and nickel. I think, yeah, pretty sure it can only do those 4. And the other 4 ores that you get in the game is magnesium, gold, silver, platinum, 5, and uranium. I think you can do magnesium with the basic assembler, basic refinery as well. We'll try it out and see if we come across any. Magnesium is not going to be super critical unless we find ourselves needing a lot of ammunition for weapons. If we have to set up some turrets and stuff to stop people from raiding our base whilst we're not around, or even while we are around, if we want more bullets, we need magnesium for that. But yeah, we'll see how we go. Hopefully we can stay well hidden. At least for the meantime. This is going to eventually be quite a sizable hole. But I want to try and keep it underground as well, because as soon as you start messing with the voxels, it's visible from a fair way off. So, but the other reason why I probably want to be underground a bit is if we do manage to get something built, and there's a lightning storm, we want to be underground for that, because then we are not going to die. And also the lightning's going to chase after me. It's less likely to go for the base than it is for me. So if it's going for me, I'm underground, I'm not going to get fried, and the base is going to be a little less likely to get damaged. Hopefully, at least that's the theory. Because yeah, the lightning will chase you. It's not... the environment hostility is set to safe on this particular server, so it shouldn't be too hard, but this world is particularly difficult, I've found, for that. So yeah, chuck more stone in there, take it off crouch, we'll have a look in here. Just take out what we can, dump it in here. Grab our welder. We don't want to weld the whole thing up because otherwise we won't be able to get to those ports there. But if we just weld it up a little bit each time we get stuff, we will see it cannot withdraw for metal grids. But yeah, from the survival kit there, that was manufacturing parts as well. Can't do the metal grids. We're not going to be able to do the metal grids. We're going to have to grind down those thrusters. So we'll do that now. And we've got everything else but those for the cargo container. Oops. There we go. I had the wrong toolbar set. Now we don't want to grind down too much accidentally, so take my time with that. If you accidentally grind through something that might be important, you're going to have a bad time. So best to be careful. And also when you're using a larger or a higher tier grinder or a higher tier tools, they work a lot faster. You can accidentally tear through things that you don't mean to. But anyway, there's our cargo container. All up and running. Now this is the very basic start to a base. Now because we need air and that is a pretty high priority, we're going to have to put a way of getting air onto this. And we're also going to have to put our survival kit onto the base here as well. And that is going to be a priority. So probably what I'll do is on the top of this container, on the top port, I'm going to stick an oxygen tank, and I'll stick the survival kit just here off to the sides. That way I can get to it much easier, and also it won't despawn. But if you have a look at the survival kit, the reason why I wait until I'm ready to go with it is those medical components. I cannot refine the stuff I need for that with the basic refinery or the basic assembler, I don't think. Now also the other thing is, the reason why I've set it up this way is now I can go here and pull out components directly from the basic assembler. That's what the conveyor tube is there for. So yeah, we're moving along quite well now. So I'll grab some steel plate, and if we open up our second toolbar there, I'm going to go into the G menu, and something else that's worth noting is if you've played the game before or you played in creative mode and you haven't worked through the progression in survival, this will tell you what you need to make in what order to unlock blocks. So like to make, let's say this here is a projector, we can't do that until we've made something on this tier first that connects up to that tree, and so on and so forth all the way down. I'm probably not going to make a jukebox, but you never know. So down here you can see you've got an assembler and the industrial assembler, which effectively are the same thing. They have the same characteristics, except I found that the industrial assembler, being part of the heavy industry DLC, is a bit easier to work with because adding modules to it, such as the speed module or yield module, power efficiency module. Yield module doesn't do anything with this, but either one of those two modules that do have a use for it, you can put all four on there quite easily, whereas it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass with this one. But this one is a bit smaller. It's, well, half the size. So if you are pressed for space or something like that, this one might be easy to fit in, so it's still useful. This is the one out of the basic pack. I don't have the Warfare 2 DLC, but I'm sure that there are a lot of good features in that. Most of the changes are cosmetic, but that is one that I've noticed that is not cosmetic. It is much easier to use the industrial assembler, I've found at least anyway. And it does look pretty cool. Takes up more space though. Now, there are a few things that we're going to need early on. Like if we wanted to put doors on something, we can't put doors until we build an interior wall. There's a lot of things that the interior wall is the first thing that you'll need to make for. But we're not going for aesthetics, we're going for functionality first. If we wanted ladders or stairs, then interior wall is going to be something that we'd have to do. And ladders could be potentially very useful to us if we wanted to make things look a bit prettier or whatever. But at the moment, I think we'll just go with the angle blocks. So yeah, that's the basic rundown on the progression tree. If you can't figure out why, when you're in the blocks thing here, this will only show you the stuff that you can select to build with, like that you have unlocked. So that's something to bear in mind. If you can't find it here, or you go to type it in here, so we want the survival kit, right there it is. That way I don't have to hunt around for it. I'm just going to chuck it over here because it's not something I'm going to use very often and will probably get deleted. But I just stick things where I think they're going to be the most useful at any given time. Everybody comes up with their own way of doing things. And I'm running out of juice. So we'll power back up. Something else that we're going to have to put down sooner rather than later is a battery. Probably should do that first. So now we've got a basic assembler up. Something that makes life a lot easier in the production menu is if we want all the things for... Oh, we can't do that from this one. That's only from the next one. Oh. Never mind, we'll cover that later once we've got the full assembler down. So, now this is not going to do us much good if the wind stops blowing. So, we're going to want to stick a battery down. So we'll get some more steel plates, which we don't have any in there. The other thing we want to do is move everything over from this. So double clicking just sends it into the inventory that you previously had. We don't need the gravel, but what we'll do is we'll just chuck the gravel on the ground. Like I said, gravel is going to be a pain in the backside for us. And we'll just chuck everything that we've pulled out of there into there. We can take out the stone as well as the ingots, and we'll just try to keep the power drain at a minimum there. Oh, sneeze. Alright. Now, do we have... Yes, we do have some steel plate. So, now, if we go into the 2 menu again, we're going to need the battery. So, we're going to G. And select battery. Battery also, you may place a lot of batteries, but you may not place those. You probably won't place those batteries that frequently. Like once you've got yourself figured out, then you'll fall off stuff. So yeah, just put it down somewhere where it's going to be out of the way. We'll add that to the build planner and we'll just chuck it in. Now we can still reach this from where it is there, so that's not an issue, which is good news. But it is going to require 80 power cells. That's problematic, because they take a long time to make. Now the batteries, what it's going to do is make sure that we don't lose power overnight. Or when we don't, or if we're running solar power overnight, or when the wind turbine runs out. Anyway, I'm going to pause for a moment. And we're back. Oh, there we go. Turn the thing back on. There we go. So, yeah. If you are watching this, please tell me what you think. I have no idea what this sounds like, whether the mix is any good or anything like that. Or whether or not you have any criticism. If you are going to type anything down there, please be mindful of other people that may be reading. Not everybody needs to hear what cryptocurrency is better than others, because that's not what this is about. This is about digging space holes on alien planets and having some fun trying to make some cool things. And also, if someone does say something that you think is a stupid question, that's not really fair to say or to rip into them about. If they don't know, then they don't know. I'll answer the same question as many times as I get asked it. Like, there's no such thing as common sense, I've learned. Common sense is based on common experience, and if you've never played the game before, how would you know? Now, this is not going to be the prettiest looking base to start with, but it is going to be minimally functional. It's going to do everything we need to give ourselves the best opportunity to not die. Although when we log out, we are going to probably die. So if we do manage to find the things that we need for better tools, then what we will want to do is to make sure that we don't keep those tools on our character inventory whilst we are offline. Otherwise, we will die whilst we're offline because the game goes on. We don't want to lose those tools at this stage of the game anyway, if we manage to come across better stuff, whether it be in an unknown signal, which I'm not going to be able to get there by running, but we might be able to get better tools out of that, or we might be able to get some space credits or some different suits and whatnot. I don't even know whether or not I'm in what suit I'm wearing. Doom Guy suit. Yes. Now, what we could do with the survival pod is turn it into a small grid rover and whack a drill on it and use that for picking up stuff, but it is not the best way to go about it. One of the other limitations of this particular server is we have things called performance cost units. We have 20,000 of them, which when you're starting out seems like a lot. When you hit it, it's a pain. And large grid and small grid both take up the same PCU, I think, for the same components, but there's much less functionality in the small grid stuff. That's why, one of the reasons why I'm going for the large grid here. I'm going to make a large grid rover. I'm going to try to get that up and going as the priority in comparison to making that thing into something. But yeah, the smarter thing to do, in my opinion, is to offer one of these ports here, run a conveyor tube, a drill with a piston, so that way we can just plunge into the dirt and feed it in straight into all of this stuff. But yeah, priority at the moment, try not to die. So we need to make the I don't want to die stuff. Then we can work on making the mobility stuff. Well, also the refined stuff quicker aspect of it. One of the other limitations on this particular server is you can only have 5 of each of the block tools. So 5 block grinders, drills, and welders. Which is, in survival, that is a very big limitation, because, you know, once you can build drills easily, yeah, you could stick a lot of drills all down and save yourself a lot of time drilling stuff out. But the limitation of this particular server with that, it does make it, you have to be a lot more, well, there's a lot more work involved, which is one of the reasons why I like this server, as well as the other Keen server. It's those challenges make it a little bit harder for yourself and make the game a little bit more interesting. Because, yeah, if it was too easy, it wouldn't be as engaging, in my opinion. There's something else that well, when we get to actually running pistons and hinges and all sorts of other moving parts, we'll run over it. But yeah, there's a few other limitations on the server that make it hard. One of those being the shared inertia tensor on the moving parts. I'm not 100% sure about this particular one, but on the other Keen server I've been playing on, yeah, that makes for some pretty interesting moments. If you put too many pistons and stuff together, they all fight against each other, and you just have a right time of it, and you'll end up with things destroying themselves, and getting donated to the Church of Clang, which is entertaining to watch, but it's unfortunate if you've been working on something for a while and it just turns out, no, it doesn't want to work. Clang says no. Yeah, I've seen some pretty epic fails from other people being over ambitious with pistons and drills and banging their head against the wall trying to figure out what's going on. It worked in creative, so on and so forth, and it was as simple as it's never going to work because you can't share the inertia tensor. Wrong key. And it's little things like that, like when picking a server to play on, have a look and see what the server settings are before you get on there, so that way you know what rules you're working with. It's how I picked playing this particular server. It's like this was going to be particularly challenging for those particular reasons. So, and the other reason why I picked it is because it's a well-maintained server, it's got good reliability, and other reasons like that. So that way, if I do want to get, or you know, spend a bit of time in it and really focus on playing a game as best in a particular scenario that I've set for myself that I can, I don't want to have to worry about whether or not it's going to, you know, get wiped, or if it's someone's private server that's open to the public, you know, they can just pull the pin on it or change the rules at any stage. That has happened to a friend of mine before. He was playing on a server and someone decided, nah, we're going to do this now, and because he was the administrator, he decided to go and change stuff up. And I don't like playing with rules that can change at the whim of a tyrant, which is good about this, because it is what it is. Everybody plays to the same rules. It's fair. It may be difficult, but it's fair. I've never understood people whinging about the PCE limit. Everybody has the same struggle with the limits. Some people have found some ways around it, like by using multiple accounts, and that's fair enough. Like, they're paying for the game twice, which I think in some ways is a good thing. It means that they're supporting the software manufacturers, and that means that they can maintain the game for me, as well as everybody else that likes playing the game, and it'll last longer and improve. I mean, the most recent update was the Most Wanted update. Came out a little while ago, and it was a whole bunch of new blocks added. There's a standard pack for the game. It was free, like more or less an update rather than a DLC. Which is good. It was free insofar as all the DLC blocks that you have access to that were changed were added into the game as well, or added into the Most Wanted thing. But so if you don't have the paid DLC, then you don't get it. But otherwise, the Most Wanted stuff was free, which is good. It means that you've got like some extra blocks which make it a little bit easier to do some things, like angled railing. There was a whole bunch of half blocks and stuff like that for both large and small grid, which makes life a lot easier for trying to get particular shapes. Sometimes trying to get a particular shape out of the blocks that were available before was very challenging, and it's like you'd have something in mind and it was just damn near impossible, if not impossible, to actually do. So there's a lot more options available to it now, which I think is great. Trying to manage all your choices is actually one of the more difficult things. Now, if you have a look at the toolbar, just as an idea, on your toolbar, you've got 9 different toolbars you can select from. If you hold down Control and 1 through 9, so yeah, you've got 81 different blocks you can put on there to select from. You can change them in and out whenever you want, but you put the ones that you frequently use on there. And I find myself running out of space on that toolbar all the time, and that can be frustrating. But, you know, everybody has their own individual quirks. That's one of mine. The other thing that you'll find is that as you go through, you will find ways to set up your toolbars that work good for you. The other thing as well is like sitting in the cockpit, for example. Like, even though we're not going to be able to get any functionality out of the seat, the passenger seat, we've also got a different toolbar thing going on. All my tools have gone away, and that's because I can assign different functions to the particular ship that I'm on to that toolbar there, and I can do 9 different things there as well. So, I mean, you can even use a ship to build stuff as well if you wanted to, which can be handy. Like I've seen some interesting videos on people's methods of doing things where they are in a very difficult kind of scenario they've created for themselves, intentionally trying to find new challenges to the game and whatnot, and make things hard for yourself, or scenarios that are difficult. Okay, let's see where we're at with making stuff. Whoop, flying again. That's less than ideal. Okay. It still wants the metal grids for the container. Now, if we go back to the G menu, we still got the parts for the container on there, and that's going to bug us like until we either collect them all, or if we go down here, we can right click on that and remove it. The other thing that we can do is if we want the parts, we can just add to the build planner from the G menu here. So if we double click, or sorry, if we select the block we want and we click add there, and we've added a light armor block to the build planner. That doesn't mean we're going to make the parts up. That just means that we can go and automatically add them the same way that we were before with the middle mouse button. Shift middle mouse button to add the parts, middle mouse button by itself to collect the parts out. So let's see what we're still needing 80 power cells. And what are we waiting for with those? Let's have a look. Oh, it's making them up. It's just very, very slow. And that's what I was talking about. The power cells will take an eternity and then a week. But we just keep drilling in the meantime. It's pretty much our redundant default go-to action. We try and get multiple things going on at the same time. So whilst we're sitting here drilling, we want to keep our equipment working for us. So we've got the parts being made, as well as the stone being refined. And what we'll end up finding is that the stone is going to be being refined faster than we can drill it out with the tool that we have. And that's the other reason why we want to start looking at some better ways of going about it, because it doesn't matter how fast we can use this tool or what have you, we are still going to be smashing through this stone faster than we can put it in there. And we want to get through this part as painlessly as possible. As you can see, we're already making a sizable hole in it. Oh. Still got to get the crouch thing going on. But yeah, it is pretty important that we get that battery up, so that way we don't end up with our survival kit being out of power whilst we're not here or not online. So yeah, what's that, 45 to go? Keep digging. Like I said, you dig, and then when you think you're done digging, you dig some more. One of the other things that you can do, if you do want to go and play your own, like create your own server, something I found to be an interesting challenge is, like in vanilla, is adding spiders and wolves. They make it very difficult, especially if you up the environment hostility. Like, because the environment hostility set to safe, the weather is not as severe, so we haven't been struck by lightning yet. If you bumped it up a couple notches, you are going to have a real time of it. You're going to end up with spiders coming out of the ground all over the place trying to kill ya, lightning trying to kill ya, sandstorms trying to kill ya. Yeah, a real challenge. This thing here, the biggest threat would be if, yeah, we get found by a player that wants to raid us. They can wipe out all the work that we've done in next to no time. then we'd have to worry about lightning strikes or something like that. I think that, yeah, someone else finding us. Although finding us on Pertram's probably not going to be something that will happen as frequently. But you never know. When those unknown signals pop up, they might give you items, but they will also give away your location to other people, because other people can see them and try and get them as well. They will spawn within a certain proximity of your character, which can give someone a way of finding you. They can go and search you out, which could be good, could be bad. If they are of ill intent, then they're gonna search you out just to ruin your day. So yeah, that is probably one of the biggest threats, especially when you're in a vulnerable spot like this. Like, we've got next to nothing set up, and the problem with that is, yeah, we've got no way to defend ourselves other than to run and hide. And once our survival kit goes, then we're back to square one. Which is on the other server. The last couple of weeks, it has been pretty brutal with new players just getting annihilated straight off the bat. The moon is a pretty sketchy place to start, and so is Titan. Because they're actually relatively easy starts, a lot of people will go there. There's a lot of materials that are easy to get, a lot of ore deposits and stuff like that are pretty easy to find. Ices are plenty, so you can run hydrogen and generators and stuff like that, or hydrogen engines to generate electricity, and so people will tend to go there. And the unfortunate thing about that is it makes them an easy target when they're first starting out. And if you're not particularly good at playing the game, what you end up with is a situation where you may just be first playing a game, struggling away at it, you get something finally working, then along comes a raider. And they'll just go to town on you. They'll tear you to pieces and literally, potentially ruin your day. And yeah, I think that's unfortunate. I don't like doing that to other people. If I see raiders going and messing around, we go and have some fun with them. Like, got a pretty good faction set up on the other server. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do that. Charge up my battery. Let's see if we put anything in there. I don't think I did. Oh no, I did. Now you can run both the survival kit and, like, once we've got the survival kit on the other thing, we can actually get that to refine stone for us. There is a little bit more of an efficiency doing it that way, but the ease of just chucking everything in there and letting it sort itself out, that's my preferred way of doing it. I don't like to think too hard about things. That's why some scripts are really good if you're on a server that enables scripting, or you're in creative mode or something like that. Something that's very good is a particular script I like a lot is Izzy's Inventory Manager. Check it out on the workshop. Like, it's brilliant. The person who created it really did a good job with it, and it helps to organize all your materials and stuff like that when you've got a lot of cargo containers and all sorts of other stuff all over the base. It helps to manage everything and keep everything together, so that way you don't have a million different places where you've got steel plate or something like that. So that's, yeah, definitely worth having a go at, checking out some of those other cool scripts that are available. There's a lot of other cool scripts that like they'll show you or with Izzy's Inventory Manager, you can also put that up on an LCD screen. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. Just trying to get a friend of mine to show me how to do it, because I was struggling with it a little bit. Like I said, not brilliant at the scripting bit. Like, I need to see it done first. More of a monkey see, monkey do kind of person. Because the way I figure it with that as well, like, I think, well, that's how we learn as a species. We have a look and see what other people have done, and if they can do it, there's no reason why I can't do it as long as it's within my physical capabilities, and I can sit here and play a video game. As can just about anybody else, unless, of course, you're in the unfortunate situation where you got no hands, and you might have to do something a little bit more creative with it. But no doubt there would be a solution if you were so inclined. What is it? Jack Sparrow said, "The problem's not the problem's the attitude towards the problem." Which I think is pretty apt in a lot of circumstances. Okay, let's see if we've got everything we need for our batteries. Why are we not making power cells? I needed to double click on it for some odd reason. We still, oh no, we did pick up all of them. Oh no, we didn't. We were welding up the assembler. Okay, more batteries. There we go. Now all the hippies can be happy, all the Greta fans, because we are green, even though we're a bit of a mining outfit. Okay, now we've got that bit sussed out. Something else that we're going to have to do is work on an O2 supply, which would probably be wise to do that prior to the moving the survival kit, because that's where we're getting our oxygen refilled from. It's still using that little bit of ice that was in the kit when we landed here, but we have a way around that. So we'll go into the third. I like to put it into the third toolbar. That's my preference. Now, if we go for oxygen tank, I think is the first thing we're going to need. Oh no, that's an oxygen farm. I've never had much luck with those. Okay, we'll go here and we'll have a look for the oxygen tank. We might need to make an O2H2 generator first. So, hang on. Or do we? Yes, we do. So we're going to have to make this thing that we can't use before we can make the tank. Yeah, and we can't make any of the tanks yet. So we can't make a hydrogen tank yet neither, or the hydrogen engine, which is not going to be of much use to us. So unfortunately, we have to make this thing first. We're probably not going to keep it at the moment. We'll definitely be using it later. But at this stage of the game, we don't need it because we've got nowhere to get ice from. So, did I put that on production? What have I got on production? Yep. Okay. So we're just waiting on it making steel plates now because we already had some of that stuff backlogged. So we need 73, I think it is. Or I think it said. I wasn't paying that close attention to it. So we keep digging. Now, not moving the survival kit yet because of the oxygen problem. We need to get an O2 tank and an air vent. We're going to do a little bit of a trick with the air vent. We're going to use it to collect air for us, and I'll show you how to do that. The main goal here is to try and get us to a stage that our survival kit is going to survive, even though we are not going to survive. I will die when I log out because I won't be able to maintain it because I don't have a cryopod or a safe oxygenated environment because my player still breathes whilst I am not logged on. That's something else about live servers that you need to take into account. Is that you will die when you're not on the server if you don't make it so that you're not gonna die. Now, as you can see there, it said blocks were unlocked when I built that. Every time you build something that is part of the progression or something that has other things that makes it available, such as the oxygen tank, that little thing will come up and let you know. So we want to put the oxygen tank on top of that. So we go to our third thing. We go G, and now we type oxygen tank. And I like to select this one with the plus, rather than have to go through. If we just type in tank, we've got the oxygen tank, hydrogen tank. Whether they're big or small, it doesn't really matter. But if we select the oxygen tank, we can cycle through using the mouse wheel to select the different tanks. So we've got the O2, with large hydrogen, small hydrogen tank, and the industrial hydrogen tank if you've got the appropriate DLC. And there's probably a warfare one as well. But we want the oxygen tank, and we need steel plates for that. So we go back in here, and we go... We don't have any, so we'll chuck some on production. We're always going to need a lot of steel plates, so we'll just chuck a boatload on. And right click out those metal grids because we don't know where any cobalt is yet. So back to the inventory, we've already got some made up. We're going to need a lot of other things for this oxygen tank, and we're also going to need to get up on top there. So we're probably going to want to put some more blocks here and make ourselves a little ramp, because on top of that is where I'm going to stick the air vent, I think. Just try to keep everything all bunched up and in a nice neat little package, I guess. To quote Homer Simpson, not the Greek poet. So yeah, anyway, chuck some more blocks on here, make it a little bit wider, because we're going to want to go a little bit wider with the rover as well. I usually go about 5 blocks wide. I try to chuck the big wheels on, but I think we might go for the smaller ones just because it's a little bit easier. But now we can walk around. In fact, we can even grind down this thing. We don't need the O2H2 generators at this stage of the game, so we'll just get rid of it. That way we don't have to climb over things. We can just weld this up as it is, and we can build our ramp to get to the top of it. Or actually, we can even just chuck our air vent on the side. The other thing about making the... once you've welded the parts up, then they're unlocked in your progression. So you don't have to maintain it or anything like that. Now, I haven't put that to build planner yet. So back into build planner it goes. Now, we've got large steel tubes. They take a little while to do. And a lot of resources. And also, you can't carry very many of them at one time. It is frustration. Now, later on, we're going to try to use the block welders to put stuff together. Like that. That's why I haven't welded up all the grids down the bottom. Partly because it takes a lot of materials, or a lot of steel plate, and at the moment we're just going for functional we make it work. It doesn't have to look pretty, it just has to do the job we need it to do. But we will try to make it a little bit stronger when we want to actually move it, because yeah, if it takes a knock, it doesn't take much to knock out one of these just placed blocks, and that can be extremely problematic. We end up with the rover splitting in half. Even with the light armor blocks, they are not strong. They're more like tissue than armor blocks. If you sneeze on them funny, or you go over a bump the wrong way, you're going to have a bad time with it. Yeah. Something that we'll probably look at doing to try and make ourselves a bit more survivable is when we can find like plenty of cobalt, we find a good supply of cobalt as well as magnesium. What we'll probably end up doing is wrapping the rover in heavy armor and sticking a whole bunch of interior turrets on it. And that way, if anybody who shouldn't be coming looking gets a little bit too close, then that will make sure it keeps ourselves safe whilst we are not in the game. But that's a little way off yet. I probably should have turned off those 1,000 steel plates. That was what was slowing us down there and why we weren't making the other things. If you haven't got enough materials to make a particular thing, but you can make something smaller, it will. So, but even then, the priority was to make all of those plates. I don't need that many plates right now, so I should have turned that off. But I'm going to leave them there because we will use them up. It's just unfortunate because it slowed us down a little bit. Not that we're doing a speed run or anything like that. We're just trying to get something that works. Like, this is by no means a speed run. I don't even know how you would speed run it. It could be done, but it would be extremely difficult, especially on a live server, like open server. Like, maybe that's a challenge for somebody else, is to see if they can speed run on, like, starting on the moon, do a speed run on the moon on a very busy server. Like, I think the biggest challenge would be starting on the moon is people would annihilate you all the time. But I'll throw the challenge out there. Like, I'll give 10 space bucks, space credits, to somebody who gives it a shot. Not that that's really worth much even in the game, but as a token gesture. Whoops. And now we're making tubes. 22 to go. Something else that I'll probably do later is I'll put up a screen with the to-do list. At the moment, don't really want to do that because I don't have the materials for it. But the screens can be useful for keeping yourself on track. It's like, okay, I want to do this now and I want to try and make sure that I get this done, like the task board sort of thing. I get distracted very easily. Can be a challenge, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of the point of the game. You come up with a crazy or interesting idea. It's like, oh, I'm going to go try that now. Let's see what we got. We're still crouched. You see the wind's picking up there? That's not a good sign. That means potential death. Like, if we were to open, like, well, not that it's a good idea to open our helmet here anyway, but the air, we do have low oxygen, so we're not going to necessarily die, but in a sandstorm like this, if we open our helmet, we will die. Like, it will start taking health off us. I probably should have checked that and pointed it out. That's just underneath the taskbar. It says warm and O2 low. That means we can probably breathe it, which I might try underground. We'll see if we can open our helmet up. If we press J, nope, we get hurt. That could be because of the sandstorm. So we'll try it. One thing that's good about the sandstorm is it spins that wind turbine up pretty damn fast. So we're going to be charging that battery nicely, which is what we want. So, you know, there's always the good with the bad somewhere. Silver linings and whatnot. Normally, I don't think too much about whether or not my helmet's open or closed. I usually just leave it closed. But in this particular situation, it might be worth paying attention to that, which I might do as soon as this storm goes away. It also gets very difficult to see things when it really gets going. You will not be able to see 2 feet in front of you. So that's the other thing that GPS markers make it handy. You don't want to get stuck out in the open in a storm with lightning going on and not be able to get back to your base quickly. Like, you want to leg it back there fast, and if you don't have the GPS markers, you are not going to be able to do that. So yeah, GPS makes the world of difference, especially considering I turned the antenna off. And I did, as I said before, I did that for safety concerns. I'll probably forget to turn it off later if I didn't do it then. And if I forget to turn it off and the beacon's going, when I'm not logged onto the server, other people will still be able to find my base, and they will still be able to tear it to pieces if they so see fit. And that would be a very unproductive moment from my point of view. But I think we're making some pretty good progress. Again, oh no, there is somebody else on the server. I saw him on the other Keen server. So it looks like he's jumping between the two as well. I say him just as a default because I don't do the gender pronouns bit. And it's more like in lieu of that person over there. So don't take offense. You don't need to take offense. You can only take offense. You can't give offense. So just as a side note, we don't need that. This is a game. It's meant to be fun. The other thing that we may look at doing, I'm going to put wheels on this thing first, just because I think it's a little bit easier to make it mobile. But we might try using atmospheric thrusters on it to make it a flyable vehicle. That's a fair way off. Like, we're going to have to make sure we got cobalt first. Like, those things are pretty expensive electricity wise to run. They chew your batteries up pretty damn fast, especially when things start getting heavy. So there is a lot of issues with trying to make things fly early on in the game. That's why I tend to find that wheels work better to start with. Once you've got a good supply of cobalt going on. The other thing as well is we're aiming for a large, like a full-size refinery, full-size assembler. We'll probably get rid of these two after we get that, just so that way we can minimize the amount of things that we have. Like, we can salvage the parts from like the assemblers or assembler refinery. There we go, we got our oxygen tank. That's all done up now. Now we want to have a look at our air vent, see if we can build that, or see what we need to be able to build that. We don't need anything special at the moment. We're not going to need a lot of them, so I'll just chuck it up the end there. We need steel plate. Grab some of those, stick it on the build planner, and put it to production. Now what's on production? We want 5 computers. Move them over to the priority. All components are out. Now we can weld it up in one hit. Alright. And then we can start storing air. Has that storm gone away completely yet? Looks like it might have done. Let's see if we can open our helmet. Yes. If you have a look at the left on the bottom, you can see helmet's open, helmet's closed. And it works the same with the jetpack. That O is my radio, which I should probably turn off. I don't need my light on at the moment, but L does lights, O does the radio, X does jetpack, and J is open up your helmet. So I can have my helmet open, I don't use up my O2, which I should have thought about earlier. But we are still going to need a supply. So I'll just fill up my battery there and make sure everything's all sorted with that. And we can get on to moving the survival kit over to there. Now we need a way to fill up that oxygen tank. So that way we can get oxygen when we don't have air to breathe. Now if we go into, we press K on the terminal here, that will open up the base information stuff there. If we click on depressurize, it tries to depressurize outside, and what that does is pump all the air into all the pipe on the grid. So now we are filling up our oxygen tank, and there'll be some lights on here up the top there. They'll gradually fill up. What we can do to see how the progress is going is go back into one of these, like into the K menu on something on the grid. We go to the oxygen tank and we can see that it's filling up. That's what we want. So that way when we go to fill up on, like at the survival kit, once that's built, it'll be the same as filling up with oxygen here. So that's the whole point of what we were doing just then. I usually only have one oxygen tank on whatever I'm needing to, like, or whatever grid I'm using, and that will work just fine for most applications I've found as far as survival scenarios here goes. Starting to get a bit dry in the throat. I'm talking a lot more than I expected. So, okay, now it's time to move the survival kit. Now this is the essential don't die moment. Now, we'll get most of it all built up as much as we can, and that way nothing stupid happens. Like, I don't fall off here and kill myself, or get struck by lightning, or eaten by spiders if I'm playing that particular scenario whilst I don't have the survival kit, because that means I cannot respawn here. So yeah, you want to make sure that that's down for as short a time as possible whilst you're in a situation where you're not gonna die. Otherwise you could be back to square one. And now we can go here on the survival kit and we're golden. Now the good thing is that thing is still going to get deleted. If I was to add wheels to that and drive it around, that's still going to go away on relogging in or what have you. See, temporary ship, it will get removed after you leave the game or spawn in a new one. So if I was to backspace out, this thing goes away. So it is something you cannot rely on necessarily always being here. And yeah, if you want to come back to the progress where you were, you need to make sure that you move all the parts from it over. Now, we really don't need the rest of the lander here, but there are some things on here that could be usable for us. Like the landing gear, for example, we're going to need them, and the other things that the landing gear unlocks. And that is going to be very handy for a lot of things. But we'll just take the data pad out and we'll get out of the seat. We're going to start tearing this thing down. Unfortunately, there is a battery on here that we can't keep. If we could attach, or easily attach the battery to the base, that would make life a lot easier. There's a lot of stuffing around with merge blocks and stuff like that, which I can't be bothered with. Unfortunately, when you grind the battery down as well, all the power cells that are in the battery get ground down to scrap. So that's something else to take into account. If you cannot make power cells, yeah, you're going to have a hard time with it. Now what I did just there was ground it down a little bit to that point and then weld it back up, and that unlocked blocks for me. That's a little bit of a hacky trick I learnt from Splitsy, which is a channel that I highly recommend watching if you like this game and you want to see some good tutorial videos that actually show you how to do stuff rather than how to do stuff the very bad way, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing. Yeah, he's definitely worth watching and checking out. Like, I learned a lot from it. But yeah, when you're grinding stuff down that you want to unlock, or if you want to grind down someone else's stuff, you grind it down to, like, it doesn't say it on there, but it's just below the hack line. Now see, it says unknown technology, I have to research first. And like, I didn't really want to keep it anyway. Another example would be here on the landing gear, right? You got the functional line, you grind it down to just below the functional line and then weld it back up. And by building landing gear, I've unlocked new blocks. It's sort of like a shortcut way of being able to access all the other parts. You can't do that with the batteries, but there are a lot of other parts you can do it with, like the conveyor tubes and so on and so forth. Like some of those things like the beacon, I will do that to the beacon. I could have done it to the O2H2 generator. I probably should have. That way I didn't need to build one. And we could have done it a little bit quicker. But again, not only is it a learning curve, but sometimes you just don't think about these things. Or at least I don't. Can't speak for everybody. But yeah, that's the basics that you need to start making stuff. Is that stuff there. Now, we're not going to die. Well, we're going to die if we log off the server eventually, because as soon as we run out of oxygen or power, our character is going to die. But we will respawn here. We won't lose our progress. The thing that will cause us to lose our progress is if the power goes out. If the grid's unpowered on this particular server, the grid may get removed. The other thing that will definitely cause the grid to get removed is if someone comes along and gets rid of it for us. So that's, yeah. I mean, it's why we play the game. So yeah, you can't really whinge about it because it's part of the game. It's not like there's a rule that says, "Oh, don't be like that. What do you have to be mean for?" Well, it's part of the fun of the game, part of the challenge. Alrighty. So what we could do is start grinding that down. What might be worth doing is, because this battery is not charging up super fast, because the refinery and the assembler will be using a fair amount of power, so will the survival kit. In fact, what you can do is have a look and see how much power each thing is using. You've got your wind turbine here. It is currently outputting 343 kilowatts. Your basic refinery, the maximum required is 330. So with the output that we've got of that wind turbine at the moment, we actually need, like, the majority of the power that we're producing is going to, or could potentially be going through to the refinery there, which is not an ideal situation. What will end up happening is your battery will start getting used up. Now, what we should probably think about doing is adding in a couple more wind turbines. So that, and we have them spaced out a bit, like between 5 and 8 blocks. And ideally, I'd want it higher up off the ground, but we can only work within the limits of what we've got at the moment, which is next to nothing. So what we'll do is we'll just extend the blocks out from there. We'll just go across to the other side of the platform here. We'll probably give ourselves a little bit more room to walk, and then we'll start looking at putting some wheels on. And something else that is definitely worth putting on is some gyros. If you're going to be doing anything, you definitely want to have some gyros on your grid, even if it's a rover. If you don't have the gyro on there, it is very easy for it to flip over and be very unstable. I need some steel plate. So we'll just grab a bunch of that. Oh, I could have put that in there. Don't need it. Or don't need to carry it. We've already got a GPS marked out, so that's all fine. Probably end up just leaving it with the gravel. Okay. 1 and 2 sticks. Now this is very wide for a rover, but at the same time, yeah, we'll just see how we go. It doesn't really matter. Like, it can be a bit unstable, but sort of just winging it. But stuck in the tree. In fact, let's just cut the tree down. Now it's out of the way and it's not going to obscure anything. It'll despawn, so make things a little bit easier for us. Well, not that it was making it harder, but anyway, go back to this and keep going on with it. Angle block there like that. Just run that across there. We'll try and keep it a little bit symmetrical. Not that it's necessary. It's just we're still gonna have to walk up here to be able to get to the block to weld it up, as well as place it. In fact, that's also going to be something that is of a bit of a crucial nature, so we need to make sure that we can get around. So we'll just chuck them there, and I'm leaving that open like that, but now we can walk around here and fall off like an idiot. So add some more in, because safety, at least attempt safety. Okay, now we need interior plate. And we just, repeating the process of building the wind turbine that we had to first off. And I don't need to use the jetpack this time, that's why I put the extra stuff up. This stuff may get deleted later on, it's no big deal. A lot of people refer to it as scaffolding, which would be fairly accurate in a lot of respects. Okay, I can take all that stuff off the build planner because I've already built that. So add that to the build planner, come down here and knock it up. And whoop, I didn't shift do it. So yeah, now we're waiting for girders and computers. So we'll just bump, no, there we go. We didn't even need to reprioritize everything. Now both wind turbines are going. We'll check the power status. So we got 321 on one, 324 on the other. So now we have more power than we're using. So if we have a look at the battery status, you've got max output, which is 12 megawatts, max required input, so the fastest you can charge it is 12 megawatts, max stored power is 3 megawatts, so you can completely drain this in 15 minutes. And currently 646 kilowatts is being put into it, which gives us a fully recharged time in 4 hours. Now that's provided that the assembler and refinery aren't drawing. So what's that, 280 watts plus 330 watts potentially at the most. Now if you've got a lot of stone being taken or like processed, as well as you've got materials being manufactured, that's going to be the full amount. So 280 plus 330 is 610 kilowatts, I think, if I can math. So with our power, we will only just be running above what we're using. So the battery will still charge, but it will charge slowly. And we've also got to take into account this is using 15 kilowatts. That's our survival kit. And the air vent is using 100 kilowatts. So these are things that can be problematic. You can end up having with power deficiencies if you don't manage that well. So we'll probably need a couple more wind turbines, which in retrospect I probably should have used square blocks on the bottom there, but I didn't think too carefully about it, because then we can just extend it straight out and make the roof of whatever this thing is going to be. So that way we've got a little bit of a safe place as well. But I'm very good at having to move things. Like, I do that a lot. So anyway, now the next thing we could do, in fact, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to do, is grind this down, and so that way it won't despawn if we grind it down, and we'll get to keep all the materials that we can salvage off of this. And that's going to be the survival pod done for us. And that's your basic start in the simplest way we can do it. The next step is going to be making the rest of the base more functional, getting a drill on a piston, unlocking the stuff that we need for the drill to do that. And yeah, just seeing how we go with it. So we've still got a little bit of time left on the stream. We're only going to stream for 4 hours before I restart it. So that's if I keep going on this particular one. We'll just see how we go. Whoa, we had all sorts of stuff in that. That was a container. Now, there are some advantages to using the small grid stuff. If you want containers and you can't find cobalt, which is something else that we're going to have to do, the medium-sized containers are the best thing that you're going to be able to use until you can find cobalt. If we want bigger containers, we're going to be in struggle, or more containers, especially for the large grid stuff. Yeah, we're going to be having a right hard time. So yeah, I think we might go for a hunt looking for some cobalt. And my inventory's full, so I'll chuck everything in here. I think, yeah, the next thing we'll do is we'll jump up in the air and see if we can spot some ore deposits from from up in the air. Like, there's a slight discoloration in the voxels, which helps you to identify where the ore deposits are underground. So gives you a starting place to look. And it could be anything, unfortunately, so it's not like you can tell what's what. But we'll fly down, we'll have a look with our drill. Like, we'll use the ore detector on the drill to try and find stuff, mainly cobalt. Like, at the moment, there's no point in collecting gold or silver or platinum, because we're not going to be making the stuff that needs it, but also because we don't have the big refinery, we can't make that stuff anyway. Like, we can't refine it, we'll just have that sitting in our cargo container doing absolutely nothing other than wasting the space for us. So at this stage, it's all about just making everything functional. I'll weld this up because I might want to put a radio on something, and I'm pretty sure there's other things on there that it unlocks. So I probably should have done that with a couple of other things too. Like, There's a thruster down there. Does that unlock anything? Yes, it does. Oh no, it was a small conveyor. So that was this. This is a conveyor junction here. By welding that up, it unlocked some things. So that's one less thing I've got to do later. I don't need the parachute. Whoa, that's an interesting effect there. We've lost the ground. There we go. Some things that can be quite concerning is sometimes when that happens, you actually do fall through the ground. And in which case, you die. Usually you end up dying. And they're the sort of things that you don't want to happen when you're fiddling around with a survival kit. You never know what's going to happen and what sort of curveballs you're going to get thrown in this game. Just like trying to get that particular block there, it doesn't want to let me grind it down. That can be a bit irritating, but at the same time, I'm not OCD about anything as far as this stuff goes. I do try to go for symmetry though. I find it a little bit easier to work out where I want things. But I'm kind of indifferent as to whether or not all I really care about is whether or not it works. It doesn't even have to look good. It just has to do its job. So, yeah, if you've got criticism about the way the blocks look, I'm probably not going to care about it all that much. I do attempt every now and then to try to make something look better. But at the same time, my goal is to make something that works first and then try to pretty it up later. Oh, we're out of energy. It's a good thing that we are not in that hostile an environment right now. If we're in space, we'd be having a real hard time. We'd be dying. There we go. There we go. Finally got them up. And all we want out of this is all the steel plate, because then that's like a little bit less stuff that we have to collect resources for later. Ultimately, once we're in space, everything's easier. Mining asteroids is a lot easier than digging stuff out of the ground. Gravity is a real pain. Do we get anything from hacking this? Let's see. Nope. We do get parts, detector components and whatnot, which we're going to want to put a large grid ore detector on anyway. The difference between the large grid and the small grid detectors is the large grid has a range of 150 meters. And the small grid one has a range of 75 meters, and that makes a huge difference to the ability of being able to find materials or ores, whatever, or ice. Ice is also going to be the thing that we're going to have to hunt for, but the way to find the ice is we're going to be looking for an oasis on this planet, which is a green tree like that one, but with green grass all the way around it. So yeah, we're going to go looking for that. We're going to try and do that flying or moving as quickly as possible, because they are very few and far between on this planet, I've found in the past. So yeah, big challenge, and we are not getting off this planet without hydrogen. we have a little bit heavier than, or what is it, 1.2 Gs. The atmospheric thrusters will only go up so high before they're not going to push us up any higher, which is somewhere around 4 or 5 kilometers. We need to get up to somewhere in the vicinity of 50 or a little bit over. And yeah, so the ion thrusters are not going to cut the muster with it either, unfortunately. They don't have enough thrust for how many you need, and also because we don't have a nuclear reactor, and we don't, or more to the point, we won't have any uranium for quite some time, not until we get to space. It really makes trying to get into space with ion thrusters very impractical. So, okay, now think about where we want to go from here. We want to probably prioritize putting a drill and a piston on here. Like, so we'll get a conveyor tube coming off of one of these conveyor ports here somewhere. Maybe this one, so that way it leaves this one open. We can still keep feeding in materials, because it's going to cost a fair bit of materials to make all of the drilling rig setup. And that can be a bit of a tedious process as well. Or the other option is to come off the top here, which might be the better option. In fact, I think I will do it that way. So we want conveyor tubes. So I usually put that in the second menu. And the thing that I use is the these here. They look cool, like all the industrial components, but there is a couple of things. These are airtight, whereas I don't know whether or not the conveyor pipe junction is airtight. I could be wrong. They might be identical. But if you use the conveyor junction block, that you can use that to make things airtight. But if we scroll through the mouse wheel, we've got all the other optional pipe things available. Now, this particular one, the reinforced curved pipe, it's a new block. I've found that these have issues with being airtight. I don't know whether or not they're supposed to be, and I'm doing something wrong. But yeah, I couldn't get a grid that I made airtight with this. So that's something to bear in mind when you're choosing your pipe, as well as the reinforced ones. They use steel tubes, which is handy for placement, like so you can go and place them down and stuff like that. They are a little bit stronger. They can take a bit more of a belting before they snap off, but they use more materials. Something you can see there is the PCU. That's the performance cost units. That is, later on, will be playing a crucial role, like as to how we go about building things. We don't want to have too many extra conveyor tubes and all sorts of other business like that going on in the grid, because for the cost of a conveyor tube or a conveyor junction or something like that, you've also got the same cost for a small cargo container. And when it comes time to building big ships, it's sometimes a lot more economical to just as far as PCU goes, to use the cargo container. Now it looks like the server is going to reset in 10 minutes. So we'll just see what we can get done in that time. And I think we'll take a little bit of a break. And probably come back to it until the time is up on the stream. So I'm just going to leave the music running because I'm still working out how to do this whole streaming bit. Now, something else that is handy for when you don't want to use a jetpack. You can walk very slowly to the edge and just hang over to place blocks over the edge. The reason why I'm placing the blocks up over like this is because I need somewhere to walk to be able to get to weld up all this pipe. But yeah, if you struggle with it, what I was doing, if you crouch, you crouch down, you move over slower, and it's an easy way to crouch. The other way to walk slowly is by holding, you press caps lock, and that puts the default walk, or you walk until you press caps lock again. Works as a toggle. So yeah, the reason why we're doing this is we want to extend this conveyor tube out. And in fact, we may want to make it go higher as well. So I usually get this wrong and have to do it several times. But yeah, we've got the drills a certain length, which we're going to have to unlock the drill. And also the piston is a certain length, and we need to make sure we've got enough clearance to place the blocks down first. And something else that might be worth doing is making sure that we don't put a hole in where we're going to fall into it. Now, if we have a look at our progression, we hit the G and go through to the progression tree. I'm pretty sure we can't build the drill straight off the bat. I think we're going to have to build a cockpit first. So there's the landing gear, and there's the cockpit, and then Gatling gun. There we go, the drill. We need the drill. Can we put it in? Yes, we can put it in. I don't know why we can put it in, but we can. So we'll just roll with it. I'm going to chuck it there. Actually, no. Where I normally put the drill, I usually put that at number 4. I can't remember what I put at 3. And I'll put... Oh, that's the other thing that we're going to need. We're going to need pistons. And we may use rotors as well. We'll see how we go. But, yep, we can get pistons. So I'll chuck that in at number 5. This is on the number 2 bar here. When I figure out what I usually put in there, then it's usually when we'll need it. But if we have a look at the piston, right, if we were to try and place the piston, now I can put it there, but we also need to be mindful of the clearance we need for the drill, which is 3 blocks. So we need to have it 6 blocks high off the ground. And at the moment, we are 4. So we're going to have to go 2 higher. So this is more thinking than I normally put into it. Normally I have to do this 2 or 3 times because, yeah, I seem to be pretty good at making some things difficult for myself. So anyway, we're going to have to raise this up a little bit. So more scaffolding. See, because we need to be able to get up high enough to be able to place the block on top, like so. And we're still going to have to go up higher. So, but that was not smart. So we are now 5 blocks high. And that's 6 down to there. So actually we could oh no, we still need, yeah, we do need to be that high because we need to come down from this height. And you'll see what I mean once I put the bend in. So, in fact, if I turn this one around the other way, Yeah. Just trying to work out how I'm going to do this. Make it trafficable. Chances are I'll just end up making it harder for myself, but and this is not permanent stuff either. This is just so we can get up a little bit higher than the block and we can place it on. We need to be able to like put our crosshair over it like that to be able to get it up there. Now we're going to have to, I probably should have put this thing over a little bit, but can we reach it? And we want. And what's going on here is that switching between large grid and small grid. So sometimes that can cause you a little bit of grief, but we're going to have to get up there anyway thinking about it, because we need to be able to get up there to weld it. Now you can see I've almost run out of walkway, but we are mostly in the clear. Probably want to go out one more, so we'll just go back to our just steel light armor blocks here. We'll come out one more just to make sure that we're in the clear. We don't have to do everything twice. And we fell off. Well, it's good that we don't die from that height, because that was a decent fall. I wouldn't want to do that for real. Not on a rock anyway. Now we go back to curved conveyor tube. Stick that there like that. And now we go for our piston, which is on number 5, where we put it. And now we can... Probably what we want to do first is weld all that stuff up. But the basic idea is we get that going there like that, and then we get our drill and we stick our drill on the bottom of the piston head that we cannot reach. Because yay. And we can't get to it here because reasons. So we'll extend out a platform here, or maybe, no, the server's probably going to restart before we can get it done. Maybe we can get it by jumping. Nope. Can't quite get there. But now the server's restarting, we don't have to worry about our survival kit despawning. That was something that was pretty crucial to our particular situation before. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Switch that around to there. We'll just keep going until the server restarts, and for the time being, it could drop out at any moment. Hopefully it does not roll back. That would be quite frustrating, because then it'll roll back. There we go, and we're out of time. So yeah, black screen for a little bit. I'm going to stop talking for a little bit. Probably be 5 minutes or so. So I'll be back shortly. Okay. I think we're just about loaded back. Oh no, we're still loading. There we go. And we're all good to go. So we'll just continue back on, place the drill, and we'll just clear this block out of the way, because sometimes what happens is it'll attach the drill here rather than onto the piston head, which is where we want it. So yeah, we select the drill. Oh, actually, what I would rather do than put the drill in the G tab, because later on we'll be using the block welders and probably the block grinders. So we'll have a look. I think it's grinder is the multi-select one. Maybe we can't get it yet. Nope, we can only get the drill out now by the look of things, which is unfortunate. There we go. Grinder and welder, we need to unlock those by putting down a control station or a cockpit or something of the sort. So we'll probably throw a cockpit down and we'll have that piped up, so that way we've got somewhere oxygenated and safer to sit when there's a dust storm. And we'll put a roof over the top of it, so that way we won't get struck by lightning and get annihilated out of the cockpit. So like, you can get killed in the cockpit if you get struck by lightning twice without healing up. So that's something to bear in mind as well. But we'll change that later. I use the multi-select tool a lot just to free up space on the toolbar. It just makes it a little bit simpler. Like, in my opinion, at least anyway. Like, I find it easier that way. So we can get to that by jumping. With the pistons, you need to weld up the piston head separately to the body of the piston, which can be frustrating and irritating, and I can't reach it, and I just hurt myself. That's what I was expecting last time. So we're going to have to add a block over. Bearing in mind, you don't have to, like, you can try to use the jetpack. I'm using it very sparingly because just in case I need to get out of a hole I get stuck in or something like that. See, it says top piston part to the right there on the build window thingy, progression. And that there is just the piston, so they need to be put together separately. I could have put the block there. Take that one out. There's a reason for taking it out too, which is, like, if I have that there, then it runs a good chance of interfering with that. I'll stick those parts on first to production because I have to put some scaffolding to be able to reach the other things to weld them up. So we'll add those to the build planner. Actually, we'll just see what we can weld up first. I've already got a whole bunch of stuff in my inventory. So, well, did it again. Now I'm just gonna stand underneath and jump and weld. Okay, it's got some of the way done. I think it would be funny if you were working in a factory seeing someone jumping with a welder like that. That'd be a big no-no. It wouldn't be the craziest incident report that I've had to write out, but yeah, it would be entertaining. I have seen some pretty crazy things when I was working in engineering. Everybody has a different level of risk assessment. Apparently mine's not ideal either. That's kind of how I got my name. As well as I have worked at the post office. I spent way longer working there than I probably should have. But ironically, I had the name Postal before working at the post office. It was just a unhappy coincidence. We still need the steel tubes. We'll grab some more steel plate. And also, when the server resets, this can be a little bit of an issue, is switching between these two. This is just the container that you're looking at, whereas this is the entire grid. Whether or not it's connected to pipes is irrelevant. Anything that's on the grid you can see. You just can't necessarily take out things. Like if we had a cargo container that was not piped up properly, we could see what's in there, but we couldn't transfer the parts across, and that can cause you all sorts of grief. You want to make sure you try and get that. You do that in a way that is going to be most effective for you. And do it up as you go. If you miss a pipe or something like that, or if something isn't connected up properly, yeah, you can have a nightmare of a time trying to find that. I found it's best off doing it as you go. Now, because I can't reach those, I can still put them on the build planner up to a certain amount. So if I click on extras of these, now I've filled up the capacity, or the rest of the build planner capacity, with conveyor tubes, and it just adds them on extra, even though I can't reach them right now. So that way I can go here, add them production, and it will also re-add the things that I've already put on there. So I've got two sets of parts left for the drill and piston and so on and so forth that are going to end up being produced. So sometimes that can cause you grief, but we're going to need to end up using those parts later on anyway for other things. So I figure, yeah, may as well just chuck them on. Now we need to go back to drilling. Manually drilling. We want to try and get away from this, but, you know, can't be avoided. I don't want to go down too far, because really don't need to. I don't like being too far away either. I don't like running backwards and forwards like Forrest Gump. But, you know, some things difficult to avoid. Once we can get away from this, I mean, what we'll end up doing ultimately at the end of it is being able to drive forward a little bit with the rover, drop the piston down, drill some stuff out, like to the full extent of what the piston can push, which is 10 meters on a single piston, and then drive forward a little bit and then drill out some more. And we'll do that until we filled up our cargo container. And once the cargo container, or it's worked through all of the stuff that's in there, then we'll plunge it down again. And the only thing that we'll really have to go hand drilling for is stuff that's really deep down. Like if there's a cobalt deposit that's down, let's say, 20, 30 meters down, there's not really much point in putting like a complicated arrangement of 3 pistons on there to try and get down to the depth. You may as well just dig down on an angle, like if you right click with the drill, it just blitzes out material a lot faster without leaving the stone lying around and stuff like that. And that's how you get through tunneling stuff. So when you want to, if you want to go straight down, you just look straight down, you crouch and you right click, and you're gonna bore. You could bore the whole way down to the center of the planet if you wanted to. If you really had the time, it would take a long time. There's a guy on another server. He's got his base a kilometer underground, and stuffed if I know how he managed to get it down there. But that's his security method for his base on that planet. He actually last week put an open challenge out to a couple of the people that were raiding that we were all having a good stir with. We had a lot of fun mucking around with the raiders. Yeah, that was funny. It was all in, you know, good sport, sort of stirring and whatnot. And it is part of the game. Whoops, wrong button. I want to Alt middle mouse, not Shift middle mouse. Now I've added more stuff to production. We can take that off later. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to be the end of the game for us. But yeah, it will back up the production, or potentially back it up. But most of the parts we will need. I don't like just sitting here drilling. That's why I'll switch between building the things that I need, and then I'll go back and drill a bit. I won't, yeah. But that's my personal preference. Like, sometimes it's good to just zone out there with the music going and get through it. Like, because if you want to progress in the game, this is an inevitable part of it. The other thing that the drill's very handy for is if you get yourself into a bind, like if you crash a rover, or you get a ship or a crashed ship, if you're trying to recover the ship, and it gets jammed up in the voxels, sometimes, yeah, you'll need to right click, you drill it, you drill to get the ship out of the voxels. But with everything, you know, you try to find an engineering solution to any particular problem, because that's the whole challenge to the game. That's the point. It's, you know, we mess it up so we can fix it up. We should probably reprioritize on the next trip over, like back with stone. Yep, there we go. We'll reprioritize because we want the steel tubes, so we'll put those back in. We'll go back into the production menu and we'll shift the steel tubes up a little bit. Put them back a bit. We do need a lot of motors. I shouldn't have gotten rid of that. And all the parts for the conveyor. We don't need that many steel tubes. Now, why are we getting backed up? Okay, now, no, that's not really a problem. We don't have, oh no, we've got everything. Why are we not producing stuff? Let's have a look. It's probably a power issue. Nope, we're still good with the power. Basic assemblers got what it needs. I don't know why we're not making stuff. Maybe because we're full here. that could be it. So anyway, we're running out of power. Now that's one of the big limitations that we have at the moment, is we only have so much space in that little container. Until we find cobalt, we are going to be struggling with that, and there's not a lot we can do about it. So where is the container? No, we're not full. Maybe... oh, we just got no iron. We need to keep pumping that out. Whoops, wrong one. Well, we've got a lot more of the materials. Whoa, don't want to be flying. See if we can reach it by crouching. We've still got a bunch of stuff in the inventory. And we'll put in our ramp for getting up there. Start it off there, so we've got a little bit of room to move. And chuck those ones on. And we'll just attach to the piston there like that. That will actually attach that block to the side of the piston, which means that it's less likely to break. And struggle town. Alright, that's gonna have to come back a bit. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. So we'll go and get some more parts. After we've done all this stuff that we can weld so far, we'll clean up the build planner and reset all the stuff we've got on the build planner, because there's a good chance, well actually we'll just have a look now. So we need the piston, 4 steel tubes, 8 steel tubes, at least this is what it's telling us we need. So we'll clear off that there, the conveyor tube, and we'll reset those. So because I may have put them back, and we'll add all of these to the production queue as well, because we're going to end up building more stuff with the parts that are going to be needed for that. All right, there we go. We got some more bits. Whoop. Can't quite reach it. No, we don't have any steel tubes. Like I said, it's probably not the best way to go about this, but it's the way that seems to work for me. Yep. Whoa. Again with the jetpack. I have thought about rebinding that key, but I know what'll end up happening is I'll just end up dying in a different, probably equally as dramatic a method. At the moment, the jetpack's sort of like the life parachute sort of situation. You only really want to use it as an emergency if you can't refill it, and you just want to have it there just in case, because sometimes dying can be a critical problem for you. Like, it's not going to cause us too much grief right now because we'll just respawn there, but if you are a long way from your survival kit, it is not something you really want to do. Like, if you're carrying decent tools with you that you can't easily replace, that's when you really start regretting your choices. But yeah, we've got about 40 minutes or so left in this stream before we cut it off. So we'll see what we can get done in that time. We'll see if we can at least get the drill doing its thing. Like the base drill, not the hand drill. If we can get that going, then we've got a really good start going on. And yeah, this game does take a long time to do, playing it like this, but you know, it is the point of the game, you know, is like find new challenges, find different ways of going about it. And I am by no means an expert. All I'm really doing, all the intention here is to answer a lot of the questions I frequently get asked, and I just did the jetpack again. Because yeah, a lot of times I'll come across someone on the server who is just having a right hard time with it, and I didn't really need to add that on. I should have done it from here. Now, why are we not producing? It's still out of iron. And yeah, this is the frustration part of it, is like, I just want that drill going. Oh, small steel tubes, that's what I need for the conveyors. I should have moved them across, because at least then that'd be done. I could pull down the extra stuff that I don't need, and that'll let me be able to more clearly see what I need to do with some of the other stuff. So I'll swap them over now. If we go to small steel tubes, we need a bunch of those. So put those together, and I'll just drag them up the top, stick them in there. Now they'll hopefully get made first, so I think that's that and interior plates. I think that's holding us up too. I wasn't really looking that closely. It's pretty early in the morning or late in the evening, depending on the way you want to look at it, where I am now, but it's probably the best time to stream. Like, everybody else is asleep in the house, so that means, yeah, the bandwidth on the internet's freed up. But I don't necessarily do things the most efficient way when I'm quite tired. I walked all the way up there just to realize that I didn't collect any of the parts. And now we're collecting parts again. That's good. I think I'll clear up the production queue and just focus on making the parts that we need. Yeah, I don't think we've got anywhere near enough steel tubes. So we'll go in, we'll clear out the production queue. We're not going to need all of those motors now. Probably need them. Probably need them. Need them. May as well keep them. Construction components, we're going to need those. Okay, we'll just focus on that for now. Oh, large steel tubes. Just chuck, say, 50 of them on, just as a guess. So that way, or hopefully it'll be the last thing it tries to make. So if we end up with some extra, it's no big deal. We can disassemble them later. It is a bit of a pain to do when you've only got the basic assembler, or you've only got one assembler and you're trying to get something done. More drilling. The grind is nearly over, or the initial grind. It is much more satisfying to drill with a ship that does it efficiently, or a rover or something like that, because you actually feel like the work that you've put in getting all that stuff done has paid off. And it's nice to just have something work. And we're going for super simple here as well. This is not a convoluted set of pistons and hinges and rotors and stuff. We've got one piston. We don't have to worry about it clanging out. Not unless we do something really dopey, like try to push it through it like max speed or something like that, which will kill it. We'll turn the speed down a little bit and try to make it drill as much as like it can. It'll wobble a little bit, so it'll make the hole a little bit wider, which is in this situation a good thing. The other thing that we'll do is maybe add a second drill onto it and plunge it a second time, and add a third drill all the way up to 5, which is the server maximum for a block drill. And then we'll cut it all off and we'll move it over a little bit, and we'll start working on putting the wheels on and a cockpit and some other bits and pieces, and actually get it mobile, so that way rather than having to rearrange all the pipe work and all that sort of stuff, actually I think rather than move it, we'll work on moving the piping. Rather than moving the piping, we'll leave it where it is. We'll just put some more drills on there, and just keep plunging it multiple times into the same place. So that way we'll end up with 5, well, we could even go backwards this way up to a point, just so long as we don't hit the grid. But that should get us the materials we need for making up the wheels. The other thing we're going to have to go on a hunt for is the cobalt. The other reason why I'm putting that off is because it's really slow to process in the refinery. and that will slow down all the rest of the stone refining, and it will also prioritize the cobalt first for some odd reason, which, you know, if you've got cobalt in your cargo container, it'll process whatever like if you've got stone and you want the stone made first in the refinery, it will automatically draw the cobalt out as a priority, which is not necessarily something we want. So you don't necessarily want to keep a lot of cobalt in there. You just need enough to do whatever you want to do until you don't need to refine the stone or other material of iron, or if you come across it. Something else that we're going to keep our eye out for is boulders with particular materials in them as well. So when it comes time to going ore hunting, we'll have a look, like I'll point out those, because they're surface deposits of particular ores, or at least they have surface deposits of ores in them. You don't have to dig down a mile for it. The only thing that's a real pain about it is it can be awkward to try and do it with the big drill. It's easier, I've found, to use those deposits, like the boulders, with a hand drill. So, and we don't need a lot. Like, if we were to come across an iron deposit, you'd want to scoop that up with the big drill, because yeah, you could quite happily, like, you wouldn't feel bad about it. Like, we don't really want to be doing stone. It's not the most efficient way to go, but it's what we've got to work with. The last time I started a survival thing, the hole I created was much larger than this. That was on the moon, and I had to mine a lot of ice as well. Starts on the moon are easy as far as, like, in my opinion, you just drive to where the pole is. There's a big deposit of ice, like very close to the surface. So you don't have to worry about running out of oxygen there, and you've got a good source of ice for hydrogen production. Where the challenge on the moon is you might accidentally end up in a PvP situation. And if you're not prepared for that, you're going to have an incredibly hard time. Like where we are now, we are not going to... Like, we have a pistol and 4 mags. We ain't doing squat to anybody. So, yeah. I mean, in some ways, like, thinking about it, Pertram would probably be an easier start, because it's not somewhere that people would consider it an easy start. But that being said, you never know what other people are going to do. Okay, we've got our drill mostly done. We just finished welding it up, just because try to make it efficient. Okay, see if we can grab any. Yep, can't withdraw 18 steel plates. I'll chuck some more steel plates on the production. We need small steel tubes again. I took them off. I thought I added them back on, but quite clearly I didn't. There's our piston done. It's looking like we're going to get this drill going. This is yeah, pretty quick. Like, it last time I did a start on a survival, it took me a lot longer than this. So maybe there is some merit to this method. But once we get this up and going, it's going to be a lot simpler. We just have to make sure that we get a second drill put up with the stuff that we make from that, and we'll try our best to avoid hand drilling. Chuck those first. Well, we'll finish welding the piston top. I don't think I did that. Or did I? There it is. Okay. So, yep. We just need some small steel tubes. So, a bit more drilling. And then we should be done with the hand drill for a little while. Not until I mismanage something. Which is inevitable. Like, I do that well. I'll get like focused on welding up wheels or something and then not realize I've run out of a particular material. And then I won't have anywhere left to push the drill. And didn't I pick up those? Add them back in. Whoa, lagged a bit there. All right. Now I could add in controls in a cockpit and stuff like that, but we'll just go for the manual approach at the moment. What I've found easier to do is, like, it's not too bad at the moment because we've only got the one piston. But if you directly use the controller on the piston, how that helps you out is it automatically opens up the controls for the piston here in the control panel, and it just helps you to figure out which one you're actually using. Right, the drill comes up a different color because it's on a moving part. It considers it a separate grid. And yes, like if you've got a lot of parts, it can be very difficult to work out what's what. But we'll start off, we'll turn on the drill and we'll go back to the piston. Now it's going to be pushing at 0.5 meters per second by default. I take it down a little bit, usually run at about 0.2. And then if we hit reverse, it will, like, the piston's always moving forwards or backwards unless you stop it. So at the moment it's -2 meters a second, which means it's trying to retract. If we hit reverse, it's going to start pushing. Now if we have a look down, just in time for a sandstorm. Now it's slow to start, but in my experience, it's best. I'm just going to close my helmet so we don't start dying. Yeah, it's best to just let it do its thing, because if you don't, what you'll end up with is you'll push it too far, it'll clang out, and then you've got to go and put it all back together, and sometimes you'll even turn the parts into scrap, then you've got to assemble all the parts again, and all that sort of business. Now the other thing that I will tend to do, which I think is like a smart thing to do, is keep an eye on the volume of your container. Now at the moment the container's full. We don't want to keep pushing with the piston, so we'll just reverse it because we're not actually collecting anything then. The drill head will fill up as well. That can hold a lot, but we don't want to overfill it. If we overfill it, then we're going to end up just drilling through, not collecting any material, and we'll end up wasting like the time that we've put in to plunge down into this hole. It doesn't sound like a lot, but at the moment it's just extra effort that we don't need to expend on this particular thing. Now if we have a look at the inventory, Like, you can see we've got a lot of stone there now in comparison to what we were carrying before was under 3 tons. Now, like, we're churning through it really fast, and we've still got stuff on production, and we're smashing out the parts. It's brilliant. See, getting a nice stockpile of parts going up. So what in fact we could even do before we pull this end the stream is I'll chuck a second drill on. Actually, we'll turn the drill off first, so because we do have limited power, and the drill is going to be using a fair bit. Oh, it's not too bad, 2 kilowatts, but we'll turn it off anyway. If you have all the drills and the piston going, or if you've got lots of pistons, yeah, if you're trying to keep an eye on your power usage, that can be problematic for you, but just little things to bear in mind. Whoop. Okay. Now the good thing is we've got a whole bunch of materials that we've just collected up, so it should be a lot quicker to assemble the second drill. And the whole idea is to try and make your life easier. It's like, yeah, the hard way can be a little more interesting, but you don't have to do it the hard way every time. Okay, so let's have a look at the production and see how we're going with that. So we'll bump those forward a little bit because steel plate should go up quicker, and we'll turn the drill back on. Back into the control panel, drill on, and see, this is where I've messed myself up, and I should have thought about it a bit more carefully. If we had drilled a little bit more stuff, we would have had, like, we can't push the drill down, so we're going to have to grind it down. So we are doing it the hard way. I'm good at that. Now, the other thing you want to be mindful of is when you're dismantling the drill, you're going to have to do it in 2 goes. And you don't want to lose your parts this early on. So, yeah. Don't over grind it. Well, you know, if you want to, go to town, but anyway, push the piston back down. Try and be patient. This is my struggle. And something else to be aware of is you don't want to fall in the holes you create. So you kind of want to be a little careful. But we're not going super deep, but it will be a pain to dig yourself out. And if you've got a flat battery, you're stuck down there until you die. So speaking of flat batteries, rather than just staring at the drill doing its thing, charge it up whilst we wait. Oh, well, yeah, you're stuck down there if you've got no hydrogen and a flat battery. That's like pretty much the end of that spawn. Okay, we'll reverse the drill, or sorry, reverse the piston. If we leave the drill on, it will still collect up a little bit of material on the way back up. And we'll see, we can add the drill on this side as well, so we can drill in a big cross, which we will do. We'll try and get as much out as we can before we have to move anything. And that way, yeah, we can get the wheels up and going and all the rest of that sort of business. And I need steel plate, most likely. No, I do have some. Whoop. And see, I fell down the damn hole. So we bust out our drill. Actually, bugger it, I'm gonna jetpack it out because I can at the moment. But I've only got a certain number of goes at that. Okay, we're gonna have to go up. There we go. Add the second drill on. Now the first drill is not going to be helping us as much as what we'd like it to. But yeah, like I found it just to be a little bit easier to just leave it there and have it still going. Just to start with, because it's going to stay there in the long run anyway. And we're just going to plunge it down when we move the whole base rover thingy. So we still need more steel plate. So we'll adjust that. That's the only thing we need. And yeah, see, we're back to hand drilling. Didn't quite have enough. Now, if I was feeling particularly lazy, I could disassemble things, but I'll usually only do the disassembly if I've got way too much of something, or I'm in a bind and something has gone chronically wrong. And I really need to get something made up. We'll turn the drill back off. Now we don't need to get the drill completely welded up. We just need to get it to the functional line before we can turn it on. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. And yeah, we still need quite a few steel plates. Back down the hole like an idiot. Still need more. Oh, we need stacks more. So yeah, we're going to have to, probably what I'll end up doing is I probably will end up adding conveyors to the end of that, the piston head. I'll take the drills off and just move them with conveyors on there, so that way yeah, the main body of the drill is gone. What am I doing? Getting all sidetracked. Like the piston's going to stay where it is, but I'll move the drills around with like other bits and pieces. The other thing I could do is, once I've cleared out a little bit more space around where the drill's going, it probably should be fine now. I might just add a rotor to it, and that way yeah, I can swing the drills around in a circle to get them to do it. Starting to lose my ability to word. Yeah, definitely gonna go for the rotor thing, because that way it'll be almost 5 drills radius, circle that we're going to be, well, depending on how far back we can go, we might have to move some of the blocks over here to clear up some space. But yeah, we'll get that swinging in a big circle from the center of the road ahead. That way, yeah, we're just going to make more efficient use of what we've set up so far. But we're still going to need more material in the short term to get that done. Still need 60 more steel plates, and I'm getting to the bugger it stage. So disassembling, if we disassemble those steel tubes, they should give us a lot of steel. A lot of iron, which is probably what we're short of. I don't know if we'll have enough to make up all of the... Geez, we've got a lot of them. How many do we have? Still got 10 more. We got stone here. What the hell's going on with that? The survival kit will try to grab stuff as well, and because we're not making gravel, it's just sitting there, and that's frustrating. Now, something else that I've done in the past is forgotten to switch it back to assembling, and then added a whole bunch of stuff thinking I'm adding to the assembler queue when I'm not. I'm putting it on the disassembly queue, and yeah, I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it, and it drove me mental. And it turns out I was just making silly mistakes. And it looks like we got enough. One short. Now, after we've got this functional, we'll clear up the build planner. We'll turn the drills on first. So this time, if we can select everything here, like you select the first one, and then if you want to select all that stuff, you hold down shift and it'll select it. However, what you can also do, if you want to select this and you want to select this, right? If you hold down control, you can select different things with the gap in the middle. Or if you want to select that and that, but you don't want the two drills in there, you can deselect just those drills. That'll make your life a little easier. Anyway, we'll turn the drills back on, and we'll reverse the piston again, and away she goes. Now we're gonna bore out another bit there. After we've done that, probably when we come back on the next stream, we will look at putting a rotor on there and get that whole lot spinning around, and we'll do a giant circle, and we'll plunge a giant circle or a large circle down there, and that way we don't have to move anything. And we'll probably have to clear some of these blocks away because we'll just bore straight down from where we are. And I think that will do it for this particular stream. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this helpful. This is yeah, a basic starter build to try and get you stone as efficiently processed as possible. This is basically every survival start grind. Is this is what you have to get done. And yeah, I hope you found something useful in it. Please, if you do watch this and you have any suggestions or questions or anything like that, chuck them in the chat. I'll have a look and I will answer them like the next time I do a stream or whatever. Yeah, Anyway, I think that will do for now. So yeah, have fun, happy building.